It's 10 Tampa Bay meteorologist Colleen Campbell. We are here for your Weather Impact Live show this evening. We've got a whole lot to talk about, and I know Colleen is tracking some of the latest developments that we have out in the Atlantic right now. Tropical Storm Imelda.
Yes.
Colleen, bring us up to speed.
Yeah, so we had Tropical Depression 9, which was strengthened and turned into Tropical Storm Imelda. So if anybody's been joining us on the journey here, we are waiting for Imelda to form. It was originally tagged as a potential tropical cyclone because it just wasn't there yet for the formation. And then it was a tropical depression. Finally, once we got those 40-mile-per-hour winds, it was named a tropical storm, and that's when it gets its official name. In order to have a name from this list, it has to be a tropical storm or stronger. That's just the way it is. So there it is, Imelda. The next name on the list is Jerry, but thankfully, I think we will have some time to kind of relax and breathe when it comes to the tropics. We still have these two major systems that we do have to talk about. So here's an overview of the basin, if you will, what we have going on. We have two storms that are very close to one another. Let me see if I can put a measuring tool on this so we can measure the center of Imelda to the center of Humberto, and it's give or take 800 miles away, Humberto, and Humberto will actually be helping us out, believe it or not. So there's a closer view. You can really see how close in proximity these two storms are. From the beginning, I said that the names were, kind of like a cute couple, Imelda and Humberto. It sounds like a, couple that wants to just go off to the Bahamas. Imelda is sitting over the Bahamas at this time with 40-mile-per-hour winds. The pressure is down to 998 millibars. We haven't seen an extreme drop in pressure, but Imelda is expected to strengthen to at least a Category 1 hurricane. It is in that warm Gulf Stream, so it has an environment where it will be able to thrive. Lately, this system has been sitting on top of the Bahamas, so interacting with the land has that friction, and it hasn't been able to hang out in that water and really gain strength. Whereas Humberto, nothing really blocking it, right? It's hanging out in that warm water. It's also moving very slowly, so nothing's been interfering with Humberto, and it had the opportunity to strengthen. Yesterday, it was a Category 5 hurricane. Now it's a Category 4. So it did weaken just a touch. Bermuda still needs to be on the lookout for Humberto, but we will get to that in just a second. This is what we want to show you because this is just the star of the show today, this new track. Now, it looks like we just got the 8 p.m. advisory in. I'm not expecting too many changes with the track here. We'll kind of look at it together because it's 8:03 right now. So this is new information that you're looking with us. But again, I'm not expecting a big change in the track because we're pretty close in timing here. You can see that Imelda will move on a northward direction for the next 24 hours. By Monday into Tuesday, it's going to be riding parallel to the east coast of Florida. And we will get in those watches and warnings in just a second. But check this out. Then we have that sharp turn out into the Atlantic. The system's recurving. And again, when it has some time to hang out in that warm Gulf water, or Gulf Stream, I should say, it's Atlantic, but it has that Gulf Stream. It will strengthen just enough to a Category 1, but then it looks like it will start to get swept away by Humberto, and that kind of will act like a magnet and pull it away. Now, if anybody remembers the original cone, originally the Carolinas and even portions of Georgia were on high alert because here we are a year later from Helene. Areas that were hit hard by Helene, of course, we're included in that, but Helene, if you remember, brought big impacts to the Carolinas. So this would have been a very bad setup, not so good setup for the Carolinas, especially because they had a front. They've had rain recently in the last 24, 48 hours, the same front that's been draped over our area. But if they had this system with that original cone, it wouldn't have looked good. So here's the spaghetti models. Again, pretty firm agreement at this time. There are some outliers that bring this a little further up to the north, just kind of running at the tip of Jacksonville, but far out to the east. Again, this trek out to the east, really something that we'd like to see, that track jogging off from the coast there. Earlier in the forecast, it was much closer to the coast, and it would have brought bigger impacts. And then from there, the models, although there are some outliers, again, the models are in a pretty firm agreement that this will recurve out to the Atlantic. So here's those watches and warnings that's currently in effect. We have a tropical storm watch for Miami-Dade County, just off the coast of that area, and then the coastal areas going all the way up to almost Jacksonville. Of course, the Bahamas are included in that right now, basically up to Daytona Beach. That's where my dad is. I gotta give him a call. But again, they are expecting some wind, some rain, some rough surf from this, but it could be way worse. If we had that westerly jog as the earlier models, originally were forecasting, this wouldn't be as good of a scenario, but we'll take a little bit of surge out that way. As far as how much precipitable water we will be working with here locally, I did want to get into your local forecast too. Tampa Bay, this is not a Tampa Bay storm, never was, right? We are getting a break, thankfully. I'm very grateful for that, knocking on wood, because, being superstitious here, I mean, we just had a whammy of a season last year, and we certainly don't want to repeat that. So far, so good. We have drier air that's actually wrapping in these systems. They have that counterclockwise rotation, and that will allow some drier air on the backside to get to us come Tuesday. But then Wednesday, kind of the other effect where once these systems pull away to sea, we will have those winds kind of change up direction and give us a little bit more moisture in our area. All right, so let's get into Humberto, because that's our friend. This is our system that, I never thought, Emerald, that we would say that a hurricane is helping us out, but it is. So if anybody remembers, we were talking about the Fujiwara effect earlier in the week. The Fujiwara effect is a phenomenon that does not happen very often in the Atlantic basin, at least. Usually they see it in the Pacific a little bit more, but it's when two systems are within 900 miles apart from one another, which we see here. We just measured, it's less than 800. And what usually happens here is the stronger system basically absorbs the weaker system. It does not turn into a bigger mega hurricane. What it does is it weakens the other system, and that's what we're seeing here. So Humberto is actually going to work as a magnet and suck up Imelda and bring it out to sea. So that's great, because that's giving us that recurve that we really wanted to see. Now, Humberto is a big storm. Let me see if I can move this map around on here. The eye of this, I mean, that is a buzzsaw, right? When you think of a hurricane, satellite imagery, infrared imagery, that's what you picture, right? So yeah, Humberto has really kept its structure here. Yes, it weakened just a touch. It did have winds at 160 miles per hour, but now the winds are at 145. So it is still a Category 4. It's moving a little bit faster than what it originally was at northwest 13 miles per hour. But I mean, just look at that eye. It still has a very well-defined eye. Humberto will continue to weaken as we move into the next few days. Bermuda needs to be on the lookout, because they will definitely have some effects of Humberto. Anybody out that way? I actually have some friends that are in Bermuda right now, but they're leaving by tomorrow, so that's good. Now, they will be on the dirty side, Bermuda, when we're looking at the path of Humberto. So what's that mean? Well, number one, they will have an issue with storm surge out that way. The dirty side, again, we have a counterclockwise rotation with these tropical systems. So if you split that system into 4 quadrants, the front right quadrant is usually where we see the worst weather. It's where we get the tornadoes. It's where we get the highest storm surge. It's where we get the strongest winds. It's just the way that these systems are set up. That's why we call it the dirty side. And Bermuda, unfortunately, is on that dirty side. But I will say that, again, this track is looking a little bit more favorable for Bermuda as well, because it is slightly out to the west. Now, this is a system that we do kind of want tugging to the west a little bit, because it saves our friends in Bermuda, but it's also far enough that it's not affecting the east coast of the states. All right, so I wanted to toss to a break so we can kind of catch our breaths, recap here. Emerald standing by, and when we come back, we'll see if Emerald has any questions.
Yeah, I do have some questions, so we'll just save those for after the break. And we're going to get into a little bit talking about Helene, because we know that, just a few days ago we marked the 1-year anniversary of that. So after the break, we'll get some questions in, and we're going to take you out also to the Barrier Islands, as this area marks 1 year since Hurricane Helene. We'll see you after the break.
Weather impacts your life every day. I'm 10 Tampa Bay Chief Meteorologist Bobby Deskins. You can find out about any change in the weather with our 10 Tampa Bay Plus app. Just stream for the latest forecast, any weather impact alert, updated tropics forecast, and take a live look at the radar. Anytime you want, and it's free. It's just one more way we're helping you stay informed, prepared, and connected. Stream 10 Tampa Bay Plus.
Jeopardy is for everybody.
That's amazing. Oh, yeah.
With players just like you.
Paramedic, a retired teacher, psychiatrist.
I'm a little bit competitive.
That's the spirit.
Watch their victories.
We have a giant killer.
And heartbreaks.
Oh, no.
The next super champion could be anyone.
It's almost like a superhero origin story.
It could be you.
Oh, wow.
It's all happening on Jeopardy.
Jeopardy weeknights at 7:30 right here on 10 Tampa Bay.
I was driving when an 18-wheeler turned in front of me. I locked up my brakes, bam, slid dead into the truck. Bloody and hurt, I was loaded into an ambulance, and that's when I put out my phone and called attorney Dan Newton. Dan jumped right on it. He was in my corner the whole way. He fought the fight from beginning to end and got me $1 million.
Involved in a car accident? Call me now at 813-888-8000.
Dan, your awesome team deserves 6 stars. Thank you for winning my case.
Before hurricane season hits, it's time to prep your home. Secure outdoor equipment and generators. Clear debris from around your AC unit and schedule a pre-storm HVAC and electrical inspection.
Those are some great tips, and Cool Today is here to help you weather the storm. For over 60 years, we've been here to help Floridians with their cooling, plumbing, and electrical needs. We can help you prepare, protect, and repair your home. Call 888-40-TODAY.
All right, we are back here for your Weather Impact Live show. I'm Emerald Morrow, joined by meteorologist Colleen Campbell. Colleen, you've been talking all about the tropics and Hurricane Humberto, as well as Tropical Storm Imelda, how they're going to eventually, like you said, you kind of put it in a way of like they're going to marry together, they're going to come together. One question that I had, I know it's going to kind of come up parallel through the Atlantic and up the Florida coast. But parallel, that sharp turn that we're going to see, what is going to cause that? What are the conditions in the Atlantic right now that will cause it to do that?
Yes, I'm glad you asked. So that is all. So if anybody remembers the original track, originally it was going straight north, and that was not looking good for not only our friends in Jacksonville, but different states, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina. Some of the earlier tracks had it making landfall in South Carolina. And, if anybody tuned into our shows earlier in the week, Bobby Deskins and I were talking about this, and he said, Colleen, what do you think this is going to do? And I said, honestly, if Humberto can hold its strength, I really think that it will suck it out to sea. And that's exactly what's going to happen here. So basically, Humberto is a Category 4 hurricane right now. It's very strong. It has 145 mile per hour winds, whereas Imelda has winds at 40 miles per hour. So you can imagine, now there's also a setup that there was some uncertainty in the beginning as well, because we had this front which has been working as a wonderful block for us, but there's also an upper level low. So it's kind of originally looking like a tug of war. Was the upper level low going to win, or was Humberto going to win? But my thinking from the beginning was, and again, I wasn't trying to go against any of the models, but I was thinking, well, it would make sense that Humberto would pull Imelda away because it is a stronger system. I mean, you're talking 40 mile per hour winds versus 145 mile per hour winds that it's at right now. They're both moving the same way, right? They're both a counterclockwise rotation. At the end of the day, they're both cyclones, just one stronger than the other. So that counterclockwise wind, that's going to kind of bring it, Imelda, more out to the east. Let me see if I can show you. Let's look at these. So this graphic is comparing the models. We have the GFS, which is in the yellow, and the European, which is in green, which the colors are very close to one another, so I apologize because it can be hard to see. Of course, Imelda is down by the Bahamas there, and then Humberto is to the right. Of course, this is measuring pressure too, so the lower the pressure, the stronger the storm, right? Well, let's look at this. So you can really see how these two systems want to dance around one another. It looks like the looks like the GFS doesn't want to go into motion. So we'll just look at the European. But so you can see how this one will have the influence of the other, and that's known as the Fujiwara effect. I had a graphic up here, let me see if I still have it, explaining the Fujiwara effect. Basically, these two storms will dance around one another. This was discovered by a genius of a man, and that's where it's got its name, Fujiwara. But what basically happens here is, let me see if I can pull up the graphic that I had. When two storms are so close to one another, they basically dance around each other just because of the way that they're moving. So they rotate around less than 900 miles apart. That's the situation we have right now. And they get so close to one another. Again, Humberto is going to work as that magnet and kind of pull in Imelda and pull it out to sea. And this does not mean that it makes it a big mega system. That just isn't the way that things work. So, you know, it's probably the best scenario that we could have, Emerald, where, you know, Imelda gets pulled away and really brings minimal impacts. Now, our friends over in Jacksonville, I did ask them to send over some graphics because, again, this is not a Tampa Bay storm. We are not going to see any effects of these systems in our area at all. Maybe some breezy winds, that's it. But really, we'll have some drier weather our way, and then eventually, once Imelda does pull away with that northeast wind, it will start to pull in a little bit more moisture. But what you're looking at here would be the wind field for Imelda alone. So Humberto's not on this map. But you can see even the wind field, those 40-mile-per-hour winds extending from the center, isn't even reaching the coast of Florida. So that's great, but it still will cause some rough surf. And then there it goes, being swept away once Humberto goes out that way as well. Some steering currents. We also have a ridge of high pressure, which has been a dominant player in our season, right? Because every storm that we've had so far this season, you know, whether it's a little bit to the west or a little bit to the east, they all did the same thing. They all kind of rode along that area of high pressure. These systems want the path of least resistance. They don't want wind. They are stacked systems. That's why Imelda has had such a hard time, you know, getting stronger, because it's been over land. It has that friction. These systems thrive when they have lighter winds, nothing disrupting them. They're over that warm water. And they take the path of least resistance, whereas if there's an area high pressure and a front pushing this, that's going to push it off to the east. And that's exactly what's happening here, and that's what's been happening again and again this season. Certainly a trend we like to see.
Yeah, and another question that I have, I know, again, we talked about the marriage of those two storms. In a situation like this, what does the name become once they come together?
Well, so these two systems are not going to actually come completely together.
Okay.
But if that was the case, usually the stronger one, it just keeps its name, and the other one becomes a remnant low. So the other one will just become weak enough where, like a regular tropical system on its own, when it enters into an environment that's just not favorable for it to thrive anymore. We just saw that with, I can't remember the last name storm now. But when it moved off to let me get a quick reminder here, I'm stuck, Gabrielle. Gabrielle, you know, once it moved off and it hit that northern jet stream, you know, it didn't have much of a lifespan left to it because it ran into those winds in that northern jet stream and it just dissipated. It was a remnant low, and then eventually it just, you know, and that's what would happen here if Imelda was absorbed by Humberto, which I think it's just going to kind of trail behind Humberto, and it will fizzle out on its own. But if it was completely absorbed and those systems really came close together, Imelda would just fizzle out, and Humberto would basically be the winner of this death match.
Okay. Sounds good. Thanks for that excellent explanation. Helped me certainly understand a lot.
Yeah.
And kind of want to transition a little bit because as we talked earlier, you know that we just passed the 1-year mark since Hurricane Helene. So we want to take you to some of the barrier islands because, again, we're a year later in Pinellas County. Those barrier islands, they're beginning to get back to a little bit of normalcy. However, despite all of the time and the new construction, the memories of the damage and all of that heartbreak are still very, very fresh. So we want to take you out to 10 Tampa Bay News reporter Asha Patel, who gives us a look.
A completely different scene than what we saw a year ago when Hurricane Helene slammed the barrier islands and left places like Treasure Island underwater.
All of our first floor rooms, our lobby, our beach bar, and really almost total devastation, everything on the first level.
Pinellas County says Helene impacted 689 businesses with damages estimated at nearly $93 million. At the Bilmar Beach Resort, the general manager calls this moment surreal.
That now, 1 year later, we're back in our lobby, we're back in our offices. 8 of us shared a hotel room for a year. And it's just good to be back to normal.
For many who live and work on the barrier islands, the images of the devastation are impossible to forget. But a year later, businesses are open, ready, and looking ahead to the future.
And the rooms will be ready and the community is ready. We have so many open restaurants now, and I believe the whole community is ready for our friends from up north to come down.
Down the street at Hubbard's Marina, Dylan Hubbard calls the turnaround remarkable.
It took a month or so to start getting the momentum back, but if you build it, they will come.
Still, he admits not everyone has bounced back.
It's tough to sit here on one hand and be like, yeah, everything's great, when I know a lot of other businesses are still struggling to open back up their doors. A lot of our residents are really struggling to get permitting.
In Pinellas County, Asha Patel, 10 Tampa Bay News.
All right, and speaking of Helene, we know that there were at least 250 deaths. So this was an extremely deadly storm. In fact, the deadliest hurricane since Katrina in 2005, which we just marked the 20-year anniversary of that. And of course, not all of the deaths here in Florida. We did see some. So we had a lot of storm surge, and Colleen, I think that had a whole lot to do with what made Helene so deadly was that storm surge. Is that understanding correct?
Yes, it is. So, you know, I've gone out to a couple talks in the community and volunteered, and every single time people come up to me, Emerald, and they say, I've been living here all my life, or I've been living here for 35 years, and I've never seen a storm like this. Well, part of the problem with Helene is that as it traveled northward, again, we were on the dirty side. We had not only tornadoes, but we had those winds and that counterclockwise rotation. If we could bring up the graphics here, I'll show you what I mean. So as that storm rode along the coast north, that counterclockwise wind pushed all of that water onto our shoreline. Even though Helene made landfall in Perry around the Big Bend area, we still had all that storm surge. It made landfall as a Category 4 hurricane, but during that time, while I was making that journey up to Perry, we were getting just hit with all that water, and it is so shallow in the Gulf, and we're only, you know, slightly above sea level, that you can see why it's so easy for us to get deadly, catastrophic storm surge. Here's the storm surge numbers. We're going to toss to a break, and then when we come back, we're briefly going to touch on the weather that they could be seeing in Jacksonville.
I was driving when an 18-wheeler turned in front of me. I locked up my brakes, bam, slid dead into the truck. Bloody and hurt, I was loaded into an ambulance, and that's when I put out my phone and called attorney Dan Newton. Dan jumped right on it. He was in my corner the whole way. He fought the fight from beginning to end and got me $1 million.
Involved in a car accident? Call me now at 813-888-8000.
Dan, your awesome team deserves 6 stars. Thank you for winning my case.
Weather impacts your life every day. I'm 10 Tampa Bay Chief Meteorologist Bobby Deskins. You can find out about any change in the weather with our 10 Tampa Bay Plus app. Just stream for the latest forecast, any weather impact alert, updated tropics forecast, and take a live look at the radar. Anytime you want, and it's free. It's just one more way we're helping you stay informed, prepared, and connected. Stream 10 Tampa Bay Plus.
And it's like a movie script. It's family rivalry, betrayal, and murder.
They cover America's most fascinating true crime stories.
One way or another, that's an execution.
Absolutely.
Every case.
Who would want to hurt him?
Every clue.
This is dynamite for an investigator.
Every mystery that keeps you guessing until the very end.
Does everyone's jaws drop?
Dateline, 5 times a week.
Watch weekdays at 4 on 10 Tampa Bay.
Windows are created and installed with different levels of quality. Unique quality that can withstand the tropical climate. Our installers only install PGT custom windows and doors, so we are the go-to experts. Don't take my word for it. We have been named Best of Tampa Bay 3 years in a row, Reader's Choice in Sarasota 3 years in a row, and nationally recognized as Window and Door Dealer of the Year. Price is what you pay, but value is what you get. Give WeatherTight Windows a call today, and don't forget the cookies.
All right, thanks for hanging out with us for your Weather Impact Live show. I am Emerald Morrow, joined with meteorologist Colleen Campbell, and we've been tracking the tropics, doing a lot of discussion about what we're seeing out there in the waters right now. Do want to make a really important mention that this is 3 years since Hurricane Ian made landfall in Southwest Florida. We know how devastating that storm was for Fort Myers and a lot of the surrounding communities. But fortunately, what we're seeing right now with Imelda, it's not going to make landfall as it looks right now, right, Colleen?
Correct. Yes, it made that easterly jog something that is really a blessing to our East Coast states, the Carolinas, Georgia, and even portions of Florida, because the impacts will be way less than what they were originally looking to be. Now, this is from our sister station over in Jacksonville. They will have some coastal gusts as well as some occasional heavy rain and dangerous surf. So certainly not a time to go boating. You want to be careful if you're out in the water. Ankle deep water with conditions like this, you can get swept away very easily. Even though Imelda will be a little bit further out from the coast from the original forecast, those waves will still be strong and can be deadly. So we want you to be careful and just avoid going in the water. This is for Monday, tomorrow, and Tuesday as Imelda approaches and makes a journey north before heading out to the east. And of course, you can monitor their tropics forecast by tuning into WTLV. Again, that's our sister station over in Jacksonville. Here, Emerald, we really